p.m. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting here. Technically, it was the March board meeting, but we've moved it here to April 13th tonight. Hope each one of you guys are doing well, so we'll go ahead and get started here with the agenda, and we'll move forward here with the Pledge of Allegiance first. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. A little silence here. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. All right. All right. Thank you. First thing on the agenda here, we're going to put a motion to approve the agenda for this evening that's been presented.
Make a move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, motion carries.
Right. So then,
Sure.
amended.
Go ahead. Amend it. Okay.
So we have one thing to add into new business. It is the consideration for a locally created graduation pathway. And Michael Stottlemyre is here to present on that topic for us.
Already written on here.
Let's see. Depends on which agenda you're looking at. It's already been moved into board.
Perfect.
And say I was looking at that earlier. I
Yes.
was like, what is
Thank
this?
There's a new addition. Just wanted to make sure that I could get those documents to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Do we have anyone here for public comments? None at all? All right. Thank you. All right. Next thing on the agenda here is approval of the minutes that were from the February 28th meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the February 28th meeting as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion.
I'll second it.
And we have a second. All right. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda here is the approval of the CEO report of March 2023 as presented.
I'm prepared to make a motion that we accept the March CEO report as presented to us.
And I will second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Let's see, on page,
Can I ask
go right
a
ahead.
question about,
Yes, go ahead, Angie.
sorry, I didn't get to see the CEO report. Is that out in Boardable now?
Yes.
I was gonna say I didn't see it the other day.
Yes, it is in boardable, yes.
Okay.
Let's see, on page 2, under the staffing, let's see, most of those, nothing really new there. On the elementary teacher and the elementary special ed teacher, were those positions also open at our last board meeting? Does that represent new incremental teachers for next year?
No, they are not new positions. So the elementary teacher position was on there, but you'll recall that Betty Van Alstyne is filling in for the remainder of the year. That
Remember
way,
that,
yeah,
yep.
so we have consistency there. So that is actually going to be currently vacant position, sort of, and it is open for next year.
Okay,
And we will not fill this year. And then the elementary sped teacher, that is a current position who she will not be returning. Family situation, they are moving a few hours away. So
okay, I think those, yeah, you had mentioned those before. The same with the social studies and MS science, middle school science.
So currently, the high school social studies, we have a certified teacher who is retired, who is a long-term sub for us this year, because that is a harder position to fill, mid-year. And then same thing with middle school science. We currently have a long-term substitute in it, and always in a position like that. She's very much interested in returning next year. However, we want to make sure that we are searching for certified candidates and those things. And so if we are unable to fill, which we have no reason to think we couldn't fill it, we do have at least coverage planned.
Okay, very
So
good.
is she not certified then, or she?
She is not a certified teacher. She qualifies for an emergency permit and does have a bachelor's degree, but she is just not a licensed teacher. And so,
Okay.
searching for content.
Is she good though at what she's teaching? Have we made that observation?
We've made observations. Because it's not her primary content area, so that that's always a challenge.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not that she's not doing a good job. It just would prefer to have someone with a science degree.
Sure, okay. So we'll have 4 different faces then of names in those positions.
Yes.
And they would be listed as to be filled, I think, on our budget, the appendix, the salary schedule. on our
Right,
budget,
and actually, besides the elementary teacher does say to be filled on that. The 3 other positions at the bottom, those actually have people's names on them right now.
Oh, okay.
And then I will point out that CAP instructor that is listed, that was listed on this last month as well. That is a new position it would be a middle school. We do currently have a long-term sub that is probably pretty interested in continuing in the position. We just need, because it's a new creation, we'll be able to go through that process and see where that all lands.
Okay.
Also, the board network learning modules on the back, that's good information to have, to save and go through as well too as board members. So if you get the opportunity to be able to get in there and see some of that, I've been on some of those calls beforehand. I've done some of those modules. They're really good information.
Yeah, and there was one today that we did with Ball State, and it was the budget session. It was also about monthly financials. It was a really great training, and I think especially for our newer board members who have not gone through the budget cycle with us before, very informative about what all goes on behind the scenes, or what should be going on behind the scenes. Good questions to be asking and making sure that we are using our money wisely and using it for our founded purpose. So, if one of the examples they used was a school that was a language immersion school. Well, if they've decided to save budget space by cutting their world language department, that's a little off brand for that, so don't do that. But they also talked about, the monthly financials, what you should be looking for, and it's actually one of the things I am in the process. I haven't hit send yet, but I did start composing an email for Jamie Garwood and for Mariette from Ball State, that looking at kind of our financial reports and how we review that we probably could be an example for some people to either say, hey, here's how thorough they are on that. So commendation there for Dave Ashby. We all know he's fantastic, but to go through that training today and just be like, I'm so glad we've got a Dave. So, but they did record that, and once it is sent out, I will make sure that it gets sent to the board as well.
And I can be sure to add this on another email, just a reminder throughout the year, just make sure that it's out there for you guys, for everyone to go check out the training.
Would you like
No.
to link that board activity?
Yeah.
Question. there's another training coming up like in another week or two, is that correct?
Yes. It's April 20th
Yeah, that sounds right.
The
and
20th, okay.
the 20th, and it is at 11:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. It is board policy development, and it has samples for top 10 policies. Is what they're advertising, so that might be a great one for us as well.
I think I registered for the one for today, but I wasn't able to attend. And I think I'm registered for the one on the 20th too, but hopefully do you know if they'll send out like the recording if you registered, do you know?
I believe they will. At some point during our meeting this evening, we might have Mariette from Ball State hop on our Zoom, so we might be able to ask her that, but I can email them to make sure. But like I said, I'm registered for all of them and I'm going through them as well, so if they don't send it to you, I'll have it as well.
Is it possible to put them on
Thank you.
Boardable?
I would think so, yeah. I can put it in the document section.
Oh,
Look at that.
That'd be useful.
Oh, hey, Mariette, are you on there? Nope, okay, just kidding.
Oh, all right.
I'm hearing voices.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And then what time is the Crystal Ball Saturday?
Crystal Ball starts, our actual programming and dinner will be at 7. We will have a social hour from 6 to 7, where we will have a local jazz quartet performing for us and things, so we're gonna be pretty fancy. And then dancing will start at 8 o'clock, so everybody make sure you've got your shoes or flip-flops wherever you are at that point in the evening. It's shaping up. It's going to be really nice. This is obviously a big deal for us and a big first. You will see some blasts from the past. So San Pellegrino has confirmed that he will be there.
Oh, good.
So that will be pretty cool. Obviously, our founder, Bob Guillaume, will be there in his dancing shoes and ready for a conga line. So he will be there as well. And we have a few other people that
Very good.
are going to be
Can we still register to go attend that, Jill?
Yes, if you are interested, we have submitted for caterer, but we've got wiggle room, so you can have my food if you want. But, so Angie, do you want to go then?
Yes, please put me down.
Okay, are you going to be a +1 as well?
No, it'll just be me.
All right, +1 or not, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Any other further questions, discussions? All right, so we already have a motion and a second. All in favor to say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is the financial report 2023-2024 budget, first reading. You want to go through that first, or Dave, you want to go through your report first?
Well, let's see. I can start off with the budget.
Okay.
I was hoping Beth would be here. I was going
Yeah.
to defer
I would
to
say,
her.
well,
Yes.
We could defer to Andrea, of course, but,
Yeah.
Another meeting that's going on at the same time.
oh, that's okay.
Not jump on.
Andrea,
All right.
are you prepared to go ahead and do that overview for us, or do you want Dave to take it?
Well, I can go ahead and start,
Let Dave start.
and then when I get myself
And
in
add to
hot
it.
water, I'll quickly turn it over to you and hope you can bail me out here.
I read
so.
your report. It looked pretty
Did,
thorough.
oh, okay. Okay, very good. Well, let's see, the Finance Committee, Ryan and myself, did meet, I think on the 3rd of April
Yes.
with Jill, and we had about a 2.5 hour examination of our first budget draft. Let's see, total income on our first reading or our preliminary budget, 10,503,402, and total expense 10,911,491. Now, we see right away that since 911 is bigger than 503, we're probably off to a negative net cash profit there for the bottom line. And then the next thing that we notice is that both income and expense are quite a bit lower than they were based on our latest, the amended budget, or particularly our latest projection for this current year end. Total income is about 1.8 million less, and total expense is about 1.2 million. Now, that's not unexpected, of course, because as we discussed at some length, this is kind of a transitional year for us, because the ESSER programs here, the ESSER 3, and about 330,000 on the new budget is going to be it. And as Jill had stated, these funds have to be spent by September 30th, and then it's all over. And also our CFIG, which brought in, I think about 489,000 some dollars. That was a one-shot deal only. And we've gotten all of our money this year for that, and nothing, of course, for next year. So those two things right there pretty much accounted for the 1.8 million drop in anticipated total income for next year. Let's see. The only other thing that I might note with the income on the budget is the budget is still showing and assuming that we will have 2 junior ROTC positions, basically using what we had when we had 2 people, a SASE and then an instructor. So how that will shake out, we don't know yet. I think we'd all like to have those positions filled. We'll see. So right now, that may perhaps be overstating our total income a bit. We'll just have to see on that. Now, let's go back then to our first projected net cash income, and that is 408,089 negative, which means that to cover the operating expenses, we're going to have to take out that amount of money basically from our cash balance. And that's not something that you want to do very often. We've been in that situation before, and we do know that we want to avoid that. However, the good news is for the first draft, it is not unusual for us to have a large negative bottom line. In fact, it may be good because we have April, the rest of April, and May, till May's meeting, to work the kinks out and to refine. The General Assembly still has not finalized the state tuition formula yet, so there's no reason to panic. And then also another reason that we learned in last year's budget that we don't want to panic is that because our budget preparation is very conservative, we do have some buffers built in. For example, since we don't know who's going to be on health insurance until the school year starts, we have to make the assumption that everybody that we figure will be with us next year is going to take a fully loaded APA healthcare plan, and we know that's not true. And so I think the new budget is showing about 792,000, and this year's, I think the actual net health insurance cost, that means after payroll deduction, was about maybe 480, something like that. So if we matched last year identically, we would have a buffer built in of $286,800, which would cut that deficit roughly in half. And as Jill shared with us, and also in her CEO report, potentially, I think we could see additional up to about $249,000 in additional state funding. Now, maybe less than that, but so there certainly is some real potential there, and between those two, that would almost put us at break, or would put us maybe at break even. So again, no one panic when you look at that first budget draft. If we're still at 408 in the hole in May, we probably should panic. But anyhow, and then also, I did not have the February numbers when I sent out my I guess, our committee review of our budget meeting. So actually, the cash position is a little lower, we think, this year than it was at our last board meeting. 680,000 versus 899,000. So that would, if we were stuck at 408,000, that would put us down in the 200,000 range, which would not be very good at all. However, we know that that's not going to be a worry, we don't think. So, but the budget does not show any cash balance figures. And the reason is because the board has insisted that the budget that we approve for next year is at least break even. We'd like for it to be more than break even, but we want at least a break even or something very close to it. So that's why we have it in that format to emphasize that. That's Andrea, am I doing okay? Do you need to jump in yet and help me here? Or?
You're doing great so far.
Oh, okay, well, I'll keep on then here. Hopefully my luck doesn't run out. I have some additional details that I picked up from our meeting with Jill, and some of those have been covered in her CEO report. I noticed that this year we're looking at about $150,000 sub-expense. That's with the higher rate. And of course, Kelly Services, that will be pretty much is phased out now and will not be used next year. You're calling it 94,000. That would seem reasonable since we should not have any COVID problems. And then I might have misinterpreted something here on the nurse expense. We do have the agreement with Meridian.
Right, that is what we're entering into.
Okay, so that would suggest, I think you were not showing any nurse salary or nurse supplies in the new budget.
Right, that is currently, that they would be providing the nursing services. It would be our same people, just their expense, not ours.
Mm-hmm.
So
They're transitioning over to Meridian then.
that's what we would be hoping to do. It honestly depends on where their comfort level is and all of that, but that is an option as we go into any of those agreements where we can keep our own people and they have access now to better benefits, which might make some of our teachers say, hey, I'm gonna go get my RN too.
Okay, I think that's going by what we're thinking our nurse expense, salary, supplies would be about 94,000 this year. Let's see, I was a little bit puzzled, we're getting into a little bit of the trivia realm here, but I noticed a big drop in the professional services under general and administrative expenses. The 121 is well below this year's budget, but you're dropping that from 121,000 to 11,000. And then I noticed that there is an instructional special or professional services that's for 18,000 going up to 77. And then it dawned on me, I have no clue as to what is even contained in those accounts. So I thought maybe I should raise that question there. And
Okay. So I would say, Andrea, do you know the line items that he's talking about, or do you want me to?
I am looking at it. So the admin supplies would be your general office supplies, and I think the idea is to keep that in check this year, since you don't have additional funding that you can use for that.
Yeah, he was looking at some of the professional services.
The professional services, so like the instructional ones. Let's see, I've got it up.
yeah, that
So-
seems like we're going to jack that up quite a bit next year and then cut way back on G&A. And again, I don't know that is that's maybe
Yeah.
a trivial point which we can deal with later.
So we can dig into that some more,
But,
Dave.
in-
Some of
in,
that,
I do believe,
I would say,
I
some
do
of
believe
that,
part of the instructional professional services includes the ACS vocational, the tuition that you pay, so I believe that is budgeted in there this year,
Okay.
which tends to be a good amount of money.
yeah, typically that's between 50 and 55
Yeah.
$58,000 on those.
Okay.
And some of when you see the services that are going down, the biggest thing is going to be, keep in mind, maybe go back to a 1920 budget, because a lot of the programming that we had through ESSER, some of that would be bringing on like PD consultants, those type of things, you know, our favorite word around here. But a lot of that is just because when we had the money, we spent the money, and we
Yes.
had a lot of fun, and we made sure that we were buying fixed assets or sustainable things that we could carry on past the term of all the COVID funding.
Okay.
But we'll get a breakdown
Yeah.
so you can see
I
kind of
don't think there's
apples to
anything
apples.
too worrisome about that. Oh, let's see, I guess one thing I did fail to mention, although I'm sure everyone on the board now is aware, you have chosen for this next year to use a constant, on the budget, 830 as a constant ADM. In other words, on our budget and then our cash flow rolling forecast statement that we get each month, that would be assumed as constant, which would be close to the 833 that we had as our actual second count in February. Now, the 85% for our virtual students, as far as we know, that will still be the rule next year.
It is currently the rule, and it is a point of negotiation with the House and the Senate. So for those of you who weren't here earlier before meeting, the Senate actually released their version today of their budget versus their amendment to the House's budget. And so as one of the bargaining tools, the House had put in 100% funding for virtual, and the Senate put it back down to 85. The next 3 weeks is going to be a really fun game of negotiations behind the scenes, so not sure where that will shake out, what concessions will be made for that. The House, Representative Baining and Representative Rogers, they are in favor of that 100% funding, because when you look at the expenses, if you're doing virtual education correctly, yes, they're maybe not in the building, but you're providing them resources. You're providing them computers. You're having actual teachers on site where they can come in and get it. They're still getting, if they are special ed, they're still getting access to all of those services. For us, especially with our younger kiddos, we sent home, it's probably about $100 expense of a manipulative kit so that they would have hands-on learning at home in their virtual environment. Plus, because you're in a digital environment, you have to buy more software. I mean, I guess not everybody does, right? You can just stick to the basics, but if you look at our current elementary instruction, they have a music class software that they are using where they're composing on there and they're getting to do fun things, and they now have access to, they wouldn't have a classroom library, so we had to buy a virtual library for them. And so it can be said or debated, if you actually looked at the expenses, we're probably paying almost the same amount per child as if they were here in person, at least the way APA is doing it. And then if you look at, and we experience this quite a bit right now, if you look at our enrollment numbers, looking at the month of March, they're swapping sides. And so we've had quite a few go over to virtual for XYZ, but we've already paid their expenses for them to be here in person. And then when you have virtual kids come in person, then we might have to spend more money in that way. So there could be a wonderful argument there. I would love to have it.
Well,
with
you've convinced
any
me.
legislators.
Did you get to testify on that
I did not
issue?
get to testify
Oh, it's too
on that,
bad.
but Senate Bill 391 I did get to testify on, and it has made it out of Ed Committee, and it also made it out of Ways and Means. So that's part of using Charter Innovation Grant to supplement operational expenses. The House version has a $1,400 operational expense for all schools. I'm very much in favor of that. I feel like I'll just pour my testimony out right now. Very much in favor of that, because it's not just charters that are not getting enough operational dollars. A lot of small schools, a lot of rural schools, they're being forced to consolidate. You're putting kids on a bus for over an hour or more and taking them out of their communities and putting them, you know, they're basically displaced and not having a sense of identity and all of those things because they're not getting enough of that tax base. And then you have schools, won't drop names, but that go viral on TikTok and things where they have planetariums and jewelry making rooms. And here's our cafe, here's our other 5 cafe options, and here's our coffee cart. And, you know, and this is part of my testimony where I said in here at APA, we were high-fiving because our hot water got fixed. And we're like, yeah. And then I had to go to my office and cry. So, you know, it's not the same, and it's not just charters. So, yes, my hope is, Dave, that they will start treating all kids in an equitable manner. But, you know, politicians got bills to pay too.
Yes, we'll have to see on that. Now, let's see, I don't know how much we want to go into. One other point here, let's see. Debt service on our new budget for next year is going to be higher. It's already higher this year because we have the $115,000
The halos are coming.
lease, yes. And next year, as you explained to us, you said, well, we had a large purchase of 300 computers in February, which we'll be talking about here in a minute with February results. But you're thinking next year we probably need to start doing some borrowing from the bank, which could be viewed as putting our own money to work. So that would also, you might notice that will be going up for that reason. Let's see, we do have possibly a new assistant principal joining us next year in a transitional role to prepare somebody for 25th Street, and I think that looked like about $58,000. So I don't know if that's final, but I think that was included in our initial draft anyhow, so.
Yeah, and it would be more than that, 58,000. I think you're looking at the other
Okay,
reduction
I must,
there.
I must miss some.
So
portion
with
of
that, as we are wanting to expand 25th Street, as we are wanting to be able to offer all of the things that we've discussed and kind of follow that strategic plan, it is going to be necessary to have a transition in our administration, provide that support so that we can have people doing the work. You know, adding early childhood or daycare, that is a whole nother box for us to explore. That's a lot of new funding and rules and regulations to learn. And so this will allow us to ensure continuity at both the elementary and the secondary building, while also pursuing that and making sure that we've done everything we can to be able to better serve our families.
Sounds like a wise move. So, let's see, then of course, one question boards are always interested in is what happened to the, our overall salary position. Bookkeeping Plus's number was the average salary increase was a little bit over 2%, 2.06%. Now, if you take a look at instructional compensation, which I isolate from non-compensation, which would be supplies and other things, and also for the G&A, depending on what you compare, if you compare it to our February projected year end, it's about 16% higher. Of course, we've got the one position in there. We've got the full 2 junior ROTC positions in there. Now, if you compare it to the amended budget, I think it's only 6 or 7%. And either way, I think G&A compensation was, I think, 6 or 7% both ways. So one has to be careful in throwing out those percentages, because somebody will say, my gosh, that's too high or too low. But it depends a lot on what you're comparing it to. Let's see here. I think that's the only notes that I had prepared under our new budget. So I will be very happy for Andrea or Jill or anyone else to jump in the fray there.
Yeah, like as you said, there are a few things sitting in legislature we're gonna wait that might positively impact it. this year has been extremely difficult for not just you guys. All our budgets that we prepare are not pretty right now. So don't feel like you're alone in this. It's one of those years, and we will work through it. Jill has, of course, met with us multiple times, trying to go through line by line what makes sense, what, is conservative, but realistic as well. And, we will continue to work through this to get it to, hopefully be balanced, or more than that.
I say, no, hope's not a strategy. We'll get there. We'll be great.
We will. And like I said, we're working through that on our other ones as well. So it's just a bit of a waiting game this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, one of the biggest challenges that everybody is facing, no matter what industry you are in, is inflation, right? If you look at our utility costs, you look at our insurance costs, nobody's insurance renewal right now, health insurance renewals are going to be looking very pretty, because the insurance companies have to make up for all that free COVID stuff that they were doing. And so we have put safeguards in there, planned for the worst, hope for the best, but we've increased, if you look down like at property insurance and utilities and health insurance, they are much higher than hopefully reality will be, but like I just said, hope's not a strategy. And so when you're dealing with nationwide 10 to 13% inflation, our supplies cost more now. And so that is part of why sounds like a hoarder situation right now, but we've been stockpiling things, or we're buying it now, because we're not sure. One, availability has been a challenge over the last 3 years, but where the funding is going to shake out. And so I think one of the things that APA does extremely well, we pinch every penny and we spend it in a way that another person would spend $1,000. We treat every penny like that. When we are talking about something that's going to impact us, that would be $600 per classroom, right? That's a pause for us. We've got Stoddy over there, so he's been through the lean years with us as both a student and a staff member. One of the things we would love to have are, smart boards and all of that really great technology. He's one of our geniuses around here who found out we could get a 55-inch television. You can purchase a touch screen overlay on Amazon. We can make our own, and we have those devices. And now, if it breaks, it's not a $3,000 expense. A 55-inch television now is $250, $300. Swap it out or wait for Black Friday. And so we maximize everything we have. And so I think a lot of the challenges that our charters are facing at the State House is the idea that we are not doing that. But it's always great to get to go down there and be like, hey, you want to look at our financials? Let's talk. Let's have this real conversation. And so this has been a tougher budget season. The last few years has been really fun, with a lot of fun money just floating around. But we secured a lot of things so that we're good for the next couple years, and we didn't invest that money into things that were not sustainable. So we didn't create a bunch of new positions. We didn't go out and buy something that every year you're going to have to get it replaced or updated. And for the things that we did get, like the 3D printers, we made sure that we have service plans, that we are proactively buying supplies, that we are going to be able to maintain that, just like our HVAC update. That is something, once all of the valves, and for any of the 29th Street people listening to our board meeting, once all those valves are in, it's going to be great, guys. But that also includes yearly maintenance, that includes checking things out, the stage doors that we got, that includes like a 6-month check and making sure that they're getting oiled and all those things. And so we're not going to have to keep coming back and saying, hey, this just broke. By getting CFIG and getting our roofs fixed, those are 20-25 year warranties. So we're in a much better place than, when we got here. So I think we're good there. But yes, this is going to be a really fun end of the legislative season. My favorite biennium is always really great. And so I would not anticipate whatever comes out in 2 weeks being much different than what you see right now, because we can make adjustments, but until we know our actual insurance renewals and until we know what the State House is going to do, we're not gonna have much change one way or the other. But,
We'll have that closer to May, right, or in May?
so in May we will, yes, and, per our charter, and Mariette is listening, by the way, she's on the YouTube version, she couldn't get on Zoom, so she did email me, and confirm that she will be sending out webinars to the school leaders and board presidents. But once we get through all of this, we do have to have our final budget approved at the end of May, because we've got a June 1st deadline, and July 1st is when our new fiscal year starts, so. But this is normal for this time of the year. For all of you new board members, this is completely normal.
We'll have it there.
Absolutely, we're pros.
All right. Any other further questions about the first reading of the budget? If not, we'll continue on. Thank you so far to
Okay,
Dave.
do you want me to go
Jill.
right into the next
Yeah,
topic?
yeah.
I didn't know.
But first, I was gonna say thank you for your continued hard work on the budget stuff, and I know we'll get a final budget proposal that we'll send out and get approved for the board. All right, Dave, if you want to continue on next.
Okay, let's see. Tried putting my notes for both on the same
Uh-huh.
sheet here. We'll see how that works. I'm dodging the sun, that's why I'm moving about here.
It's all good.
Yes, and I've got two microphones in front of me here, so you guys should be able to hear me pretty well this evening. Okay, so the next thing we'll want to look at is February results, and we'll start with any changes from our last board meeting. At our last board meeting, we projected, based on January 31st actuals, what we thought the year end would be, and then we've done the same thing for the end of February here. Let's see, there was some change. For example, our total income is actually looking to be $102,344 lower. And why would that be? Well, as you might guess, about some of that would be our old friend, the food service reimbursements. That, of course, all food expenditures are reimbursable, but there's a several month time lag. And so that is very difficult to project, and when you're putting the budget together, so it does make budget analysis a little bit challenging. And then the other component in that was since we have no junior ROTC instructors at the moment, we dropped the revenue from that for the rest of the year. Their salary is reimbursed about 50% of it. So those two together would explain why we've had to back down on that a little bit. Now, on our total expenses, there we have a little bit of an increase. Well, $145,951. Now, let's see, what is the composition of that? Well, actually, very easy to explain. Most of that was due to, rounded up to about $140,000 computer purchase for 300 units, which on our cash flow statement showed in February. But I did notice, Andrea, that the footnote said January. Now, I don't know, that struck me as odd there. There may have been a reason for that, or maybe we just got our dates mixed up. But anyhow, that's proof that we do look at those numbers closely.
I probably messed it up.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, no, but anyhow, but that would be mostly why we had to increase the total expenses for the year. Now, what that will do, of course, is it will cut our projected year-end cash net income almost in half, down to about $232,753, which actually would be a pretty good bottom line for us in any given year. And that will reduce then our cash to about $681,000. And that would be down from what we projected at last board meeting at $899,147. So that pretty much is what caused those changes, nothing too extraordinary there. Now let's turn then specifically to our month of February. Now, if you'll recall in our last meeting, we had a super good month in January. We were expecting a very good month because we got the second installment of our innovation grant, and also we got the last of our very large CFIG money coming in. And I forget the exact figures on that, but it was a very strong month for us. And as part of our board training and learning process here, since this is almost a new board, as we enter this transitional period into post-COVID. I think I may be the only pre-COVID holdover that's still here. So anyhow, it will sort of be a new world for us. So you know what? I totally talked myself out of my train of thought. I had no idea what I was getting ready to say.
We were getting ready to say we are right on track and we are good to go.
I think that was it. So anyhow, what can I say? All right, let's see. What else can we say? Okay, we knew January was going to be a very good month. February and March, not so much. I know the point I was trying to make, and we've made it numerous times. But again, we are trying to do a little board educating here as part of our financial reporting process. So that's always a good thing to do, I believe. If you look at our historical patterns, we usually only have a cash positive bottom line about 5 of the 12 months of the year. So if we have a negative bottom line, it's not necessarily reason for panic. It's part of the cycle. We originally thought that the loss for February is going to be $117,750 cash loss, but it did turn into a $398,914 loss. And since we do want to give mention of our official accrual results, for the month of February, that would be a $227,223 accrual loss. So both losses, both ways of accounting. March then is projected at a $339,754 loss. So again, we wish that every month was positive. We strive for that, but this is not unusual for those particular months. Now, let me finish up then here while I'm still remembering everything on my sheet and reading it here. What caused the February the loss? Well, on total income, it was about $198,000 lower than we thought it would be. Again, about half of that is the food service reimbursements. The other half was coming from a lesser than expected in our other grants category, which would be all of those numerous smaller ones that we have. And I'm not sure what was causing that, but that's where that came from. And again, as we've stated, the total expenses increased $83,000. That was mostly due to the computer purchases, which hit on a cash basis in the month of February. So that's all I have then for February. And if anyone has any additional questions or comments or other financial topics that I have not covered, please feel free to proceed. I almost made it through the evening, Andrea, but I got sidetracked there right at the very end.
You did great.
Probably the sun in my eyes here.
The sun and 2
Definitely.
reports to have to deliver.
Yeah.
I feel like you get a pass.
I do know the textbook reimbursement, they are recalculating. I have not heard a deposit date, so that was one part of your income that didn't come in February.
Mm-hmm.
And it also did not hit in March now. So we are waiting to hear when they will put that in your bank account.
So we'll get it, we're not gonna get it when maybe we'd hoped for.
Yeah,
which makes it very difficult job for you, particularly you folks, to do any kind of forecasting or projecting. We know most of our money, we're gonna get it, it's just when, you know, so.
I don't believe we've received any of our lit cadre funding either, have we?
I agree with that
Okay.
as well. So you and I may wanna look at
Yeah.
what the holdup is there.
Yeah, we should look into that, because I know we're getting ready to have to submit the first quarter
Next one.
or / third quarter for their cycle, right? And we've not gotten the funding from the first or second or third or fourth,
Yes,
depending on which one we're
I
talking
agree.
about.
So
So-
those two are, you know, quite a bit a part of the issue.
So, all right.
That's all I have, I think.
All right. Anyone have any other further discussion? Can I get a motion to approve the financials for March of 2023? Under review.
I'll move that we approve the financials as presented for March 2023.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Our motion carries. And then we have the February financials. We'll go ahead and put a motion to get those approved as well too. If I can get a motion to approve the February 2023 financials.
I'll make a motion that we approve the February 2023 financials as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you as always for all your hard work and stuff with finances. Truly appreciate it. And thank you as always, Bookkeeping Plus. We appreciate what you guys do as well too.
Thank you.
Yes. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye, Andrea. See you
Bye,
next
Andrea.
month.
Talk to you in a
We'll see
couple
ya.
weeks.
Yep.
All right, next thing on the agenda, we have new business, food purchase, co-op renewal here.
Yeah. So this will be pretty painless here. So as you know, the last couple of years, we have been part of a food co-op that is for food purchasing and helps us get some better pricing and also meets all of the statutory requirements as far as procurement, processing, and things go for both IDOE, USDA, and USDE. So basically, I have it before you, and we'll put it on our letterhead and everything, but we would like to continue this partnership with several schools in the state of Indiana as part of the food co-op.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, how long has that been in place?
We joined the co-op, this will be our third renewal of
Third,
it.
okay. Yeah, I remember the initial meeting with, I think we had somebody, did we have somebody here from the organization?
We had someone from our food service management company
That's
that
right,
came
I
and
remember
explained.
that.
So, but-
Now, one comment that you made to Ryan and I, that I recall, you indicated that I think every 5 years, the food service, all those bids are open. You also indicated that because we had been using fixed price contracts, you felt that that had a negative effect on the quality of food we were offering. Does that tie in with these folks at all, or is that something entirely different?
Entirely different for the most part. So they have no bearing really on our operations. It's just who we
They
source
just give us
food
better
from.
deals on what
Right.
we're able to buy, yeah.
So consider them like a Costco membership, basically.
Mhm.
And then just so the board is aware of that, this is our RFP year for food service. We do try to use a food service management company instead of using our own in-house because it would be a large kitchen overhaul. Other than that, when we did establish our food service management contract 5 years ago, you know, going into a fixed rate, which is not abnormal, that serves you fine, everything, you know, predictability of costs, you are able to kind of keep everything in line, but then COVID hit and inflation and all of the fun things that everybody else is experiencing with their own personal groceries we are as well. The challenge with that is because we are at a fixed rate, and that is part of how we are reimbursed, and we are only allowed to spend X amount of dollars, then as food prices go up, our food service management company has made decisions that seem to be impacting the taste of the food or people's satisfaction. A lot of people say, well, they started off really strong and that was great. Well, and then COVID happened, and then, we started having some challenges. So as we are going through this process, obviously the fixed rate, reimbursement rate has gone up because, USDA understands that, food costs have gone up. And so this will give us a little bit of negotiation power as we go through that. But this is a closed bid process, so we have no clue what goes into everybody's bids until bid opening day. And IDOE will actually be there virtually as part of the bid opening, and then once all the bids have been publicly opened, then the committee goes through and evaluates the bids, and then goes in connection with the Department of Ed, and then we go through that approval process. And so,
Now, will that be a fixed contract again, fixed price contract?
yeah, it probably will
Because
be.
that's the only one offered, or,
There are some there's two different kinds where you can kind of do that adjustable rate. However, for us, because we're a CEP school with community eligibility provision, there's only so much that we can do. And then, if they say, well, we're gonna make it $5 per meal, we're only gonna be allowed to be reimbursed for $3, $3.40. We're gonna be on the hook for the extra $1.60 or whatever, just as a
I remember some of
figurative
that
example.
discussion from when we, did this before now,
Yeah, so, as a, update on that as well with the community eligibility provision, we will be up for renewal for that, cause that is also a 5-year. Next year, after, going into the 24-25 school year. And so looking at that, one of the things that we have to look at is our direct certification rate. We need that to be above, I believe it's 62.9%, and we are currently at 82.2% for our direct certification, so we are well within that range, so we shouldn't have a problem qualifying for CEP again. And as a reminder, that is what provides free meals, breakfasts, lunch, and sometimes snack for all of our students regardless of their income level. So it's a great program for us, but because of it, it does restrict some of the things that we can do. And then obviously our kids would love it if we could add some extra sugar and things into things, but the USDA and our former First Lady were very passionate about making healthier choices for our nation. We all support that until we want cinnamon rolls.
Just in general, if you have students that consistently or just have concerns or complain about the food and such, is this a thing that you guys go back every quarter and just talk with the food services about, hey, how can we make changes? How can we adapt? We have a large amount of kids that don't want to eat lunch here every day or in such nature like that, just try to make it better for everyone in general. We know we can't touch everyone, but just be able to do some things with it.
Yes, our students, because we have that beautiful empowered leadership and advocacy part, have been quite vocal over the last 2 years about, hey, we don't like this food or we like this. And so especially last year, as it seemed that the quality was going down or accessibility was going down, a lot of it was procurement, just being able to get the products. We had student advisory committees, and oh boy, did they have a lot to say. And so it was great. John Hayden serves as our on-site food service director among his other duties, and so he was able to meet with K through 5, he was able to meet with middle school, high school. They sat down, they did food tastings with the food service company to see about putting some new things on the menu. And then as, you know, we've seen some improvements in some areas, but then not in others. And so they have been very vocal with that as well. For our board members or community members that are part of our Aux page, our families have also been very vocal about some of the choices. One of the biggest sticking points are Bosco Bosco sticks, those seem to be a thing, where they do meet all the nutritional requirements, and some of our kids adore them, and some of our kids are, hey, why do I have to eat these things again? So, we are trying to work through that and making sure that as we bring either in a new food service company or remain with our current, because they are also bidding, that we are getting what our kids want, which again, not the, cinnamon rolls and things that Michelle Obama frowns upon, but also, within that, we know that we cannot please everybody in that situation. So we're just trying to make sure there's a variety and that there is enough entrees for every lunch, because
Now, do they
we got a lot of
still
kids that
serve
eat.
those breaded stewed tomatoes like when I was in? Really?
I feel like there's some childhood
We
trauma
had that
happening in
every
this
week
table.
when I was in elementary school. Even the adults wouldn't eat them. It was.
I didn't. I do not believe I've ever seen stewed tomatoes on our menu, and I believe I've not smelled Brussels sprouts around here either.
Oh,
So
I like Brussels sprouts.
I'm right there with, I like them too. So is that based on, do they base it on, as far as the quantity of the food? Is that based on the enrollment that we have, or how do they do that?
So as they plan for quantity for meals, they do a lot of tracking on that. They look and see, when we offered it, how many kids are actually taking it. They're looking at our daily enrollment. Part of our reporting that we do for the Department of Ed for reimbursements, it shows, how many meals we've sold that day, which categories they were, and those things. And so, trying to plan on, are you gonna have a lot of kids this day? Are we serving pizza and it's something that they are in love with? Then yes, we need to get more. We have, with the food service company, and this is where, money's an issue, right? Fixed rate, and if they wanna be conservative, you know what? We'll eat it, because we wanna make sure that if our kids really like this meal, they're getting it by the end of the 5th lunch as well. And so we have worked with them to make some operational changes over about, I guess, the last month or so on that, because it's not that we ever run out of food, it's just that we may run out of the option that, for this like e-lunch that they might want, and those are our 8th graders, typically, I believe, they're e-lunch, right? So for everybody, we have 5 lunches here at 29th Street, and so that ranges between 60 and 115, 120 kids in each lunch, depending, what grade level it is. High schoolers are eating first, and, some of them tend to be a little bit, more grown, and so that kind of has some challenges. So we've asked them to do some real-time adjustments to what they're providing as well, but we shall see how this all works out. The bidding process, again, it's quite an intensive process for us, but hopefully we will get the right people. Last time we went through it, we only had 2 bids, and it was our prior food service management company and our new food service management company. And so there wasn't a lot of options. I do know I think I've had 3 or 4 inquiries that are not from our current company. And some of these are new food service management companies that I've not seen their names before. One of the companies when I was serving as our food service director, we tried to pursue like Aramark and Sodexo and some of those, and we're just not big enough for their appetite, right? They're like, no, we don't want you. So that does create some challenges. In some cases, we're too big for certain people, and then in other cases, we're extremely too small. So, yeah, Goldilocksing it, I guess.
If there was a national weather crisis or something from that nature, is APA one of those schools that is just addressed to be able to open its doors to the community, and also, or is this part of the contract that we can provide food to the community that we won't get charged additionally or such for? Because that happens in some communities, that they open up the schools, at least for some comfort.
Yes, so, and that goes in line with some of the summer feed programming and
Okay.
things that we've done. When there is an emergency crisis, the state of Indiana is really great about working through that, as well as USDA with those type of situations. So when COVID happened, there was no issue with us just get the food out, right? We gotta feed people, and then they really helped with a lot of that. But a lot of the National School Lunch Program, the NSLP, you are in a situation where
Okay.
you can do what you need to.
Just want to make sure that, something happens on Sunday, the kids show up on Monday, there's no food. We just want to make sure we have something, so.
Yeah. And, one of the beautiful things about APA is Payless is right across the street, so we can borrow
There
their
we
food.
go. Yeah.
Right?
Good. All right.
Right, so basically just, can we continue with the co-op?
Yeah, okay. Do we need to approve this one? Okay, you
Yep.
do, okay. All right. Any other further questions, discussion? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the food purchase co-op renewal?
I'll make a motion that we continue the food to school purchasing cooperative as stated in the documentation provided, 23-24.
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. All right. Thank you, Jill, for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next is our amendment item here, our graduation pathways here. Mr. Straubmeyer, good evening, how you doing?
Good evening, everybody.
Good, good, thank you for joining us. Let us know if you need any IT technology stuff, Mr. Johnson would
If
take
you
care
wanna
of it.
sit in the sun here, I'll swap you.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm very warm right now.
That's, I think it's moving your way
Took my
anyhow.
jacket off, and that's a rare thing around.
Yeah.
I know it is,
Very,
right?
very.
Hey, I always bring one in too, so.
I feel like we need to get that on camera, because I feel like we are gonna have people not believe that the jacket is off.
So yeah, thanks for having me tonight. Michael Stottlemyre here, a fourth-year teacher, also the senior sponsor. So 4 years ago, the state introduced graduation pathways. That was a 4-year transition plan. And long story short, there are 3 different buckets for a pathway to be met that all seniors have to meet. Bucket number 1 is simply graduate, earn any type of diploma. So general, honors, core 40, technical, any of that. Bucket number 2 is essentially get involved. They want to see you be well-rounded, so not just show up to school and go home. They want you to do sports, get involved in clubs and extracurriculars, co-curriculars, band, choir, art, and programming outside of school. So they're getting a more well-rounded education. And bucket number 3, which is what brings me here tonight, is post-secondary readiness. So the state wants to have all graduates have some type of idea of what they're doing in life after high school. So there's several different options that the state provided. So graduating with an honors diploma automatically meets bucket number 3. You could meet a benchmark on one of the standardized tests, so the SAT, if you meet the benchmarks on the English and math portions, the ACT, or the ASVAB test as well. And then there's a couple other options. You can take dual credit classes and need a C or higher in 3 of those, and you can do career and technical education through D26 and pass a couple of those classes, and all of those meet those bucket number 3. The state allows for local school districts to design their own pathways and begin that process of getting them approved. So the commandant passed over to myself and a few other members of the administrative team a school district that got JROTC approved as a local pathway. So we started exploring that since our school has military science principles to it. So what we're doing with APA is we are working to get our own version of a military science pathway created, and we are modeling ours off of the JROTC one that's already approved, but we are interested in adding Civil Air Patrol to that. So because that's a substantive change, we have to go through the whole process to get our own approved and not just decide to adopt JROTC. So in one of the documents that Jill provided on Boardable, with some of our ideas of what a military science LCP locally created pathway would look like. So we worked together with our, this is what it looks like, it's in there somewhere. We worked with our CAP unit and our Mike Austin with our CAP department and what it could look like, and got some ideas from various other people. So one thing would be we have college partners, so we would continue to work with IUPUI and Ball State with their ROTC units, and also continue working with our dual credit providers with Ivy Tech, Anderson University, Purdue Polytech, Ball State, and we would add in the Civil Air Patrol component to it. Some of the requirements for our students, if this pathway were to get approved by the IDOE, would be they have to earn 8 credits of military science while enrolled in high school, whether that is a combination of JROTC or CAP. Transfer students who come to APA from another ROTC program, like the other local district in town has a Navy unit, those would be honored as well. We would ask employability skills, so the already approved JROTC pathway talks about completing a service learning or community service project. Well, APA requires the 24 hours of community service per year, and we also do an annual day of service, which is coming up next Friday. So that component is pretty straightforward for our cadets to meet if they're here. The student outcomes, so some other things that would happen with this pathway is that cadets would have to rank higher each year that they are here at APA, which if they are actively participating in JROTC and CAP, that should be pretty much attainable every single year. They need to maintain a B average in their military science courses. They have to complete a professional resume, which they will work with our co-op departments, the military science wing, English departments, and stuff like that to create a professional resume, which we know is useful outside of school. We are looking into continuing college courses, so we want to expose students, whether they're interested in the military or the workforce, we want them to dabble with college, so we are going to ask them to take and pass at least one college course or CTE course, which is our D26 courses, which all but one in my mind are dual credit as well through Ivy Tech. So I think that just opens up doors and just lets kids explore options. And then there's various different things as well. They want us to participate in military visits and experience career options. So APA offers a lot of different opportunities, right? Patterson Air Force Base, Grissom, Terre Haute Air National Guard, our orientation flights, which are happening right now, model rockets at aviation, which our CAP unit just did at the elementary today, and they do it throughout the year, flight simulators and stuff like that. Camp Atterbury, State House Pages, Lunch and Learns, we bring in different employers. I believe one's coming next week. And our co-op and internships with Anderson Airport and various other things. And then they would compile all of those to complete a digital portfolio, which is excellent, because that's essentially selling yourself and looking back and reflecting. And then the getting involved part, asking our students on this pathway to experience something like encampment or join the color guard, or if marksmanship makes a grand return, get involved in commander and your, what do they call those boards? The student government boards, but the JROTC version.
Yeah, they have their
take on the name.
advisory.
Yeah. Veterans Day, we plan, CAP has a major involvement in that. We could ask kids to attend a leadership summer conference or an institute if they're interested, or they could also do YLA in Bounds, which we have a group of kids do that every single year. And then with that, we have to continuously reflect and evaluate the pathway, which we would do with our pathways tracking system, which is what we use now to ensure all of our seniors are on their way to completing pathway number 3. This just opens up our students to a different pathways, because we know some students, including myself, we're not the best standardized test takers in the world, so sometimes even when we take those tests, we don't meet the benchmarks, and sometimes dual credit classes are not attainable for some of our students. So this also allows a different way that we can get kids involved into locally creative pathways.
Excellent job.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a wonderful opportunity for us. I had an opportunity to sit on the Pathways Committee with Representative Baining, and we were able to add the service learning because, you know, I said, well, hey, we do 24 hours, and so they were able to add that component in there for everybody. And so being able to add our military science, it just makes sense for our kids. And you know, as we were talking about post-secondary success and preparing kids, right now, back when Stotty was a student, and maybe not a fan of his English teacher, but we had the GQE, and those were our graduation exams. And while not a huge fan of standardized tests, they were fairly basic math and English tests that were skill-based, right? They were not aptitude tests. They didn't really require, if you truly had mastered your Algebra 1 skills and your English 10 skills up to that point, for the most part, you were going to be able to pass that test, or you were able to show the work in the classroom, because not everybody does well on a test, right? There's a lot of test anxiety, and what do we do to counteract that? We test kids more. Won't soapbox. And so we were able to do that GQE. We were able to write waivers. They took the word of the licensed professionals that are in the classroom that, yes, they understand the material, they just didn't perform well on a test. So then we moved away from that model, and we thought the SAT was a brilliant way to assess if kids are ready for life. And if you actually look at SAT, the A is an aptitude test, right? But it's reasoning. It is an advanced test that the SAT includes, advanced calculus and things where kids are like, wait, those letters actually are math. And, if the highest they took was Algebra 2, or they're not taking Algebra 2 to their senior year, but they're taking, SAT their junior year, we're setting these kids up to fail. And it's not something, a lot of colleges COVID kind of broke that open, right? Where for most colleges now, SAT, ACT is not a requirement. There are a couple that are moving back, but if they are a more advanced study like engineering, then that makes a little bit more sense. But if you are going into trades, you are going straight into the military, you're going into those other areas, or you are not going into an advanced science degree, SAT is not going to predict how successful you are. No test is going to. We believe in our empowered kids. We believe in that part. The legislator said, okay, cool, you guys, you can do ASVAB. Everybody can do ASVAB. ASVAB is phenomenal. It tells our kids, one, it does show kind of their skill set of what they have mastered or where some of their reasoning can come in, but it is also a career assessment and shows them, kids that have this type of score or this type of interest, here's a career field you can go into. And, the cut scores right now 31, and that was going well for everybody. We were getting it figured out, but apparently I'm guessing that didn't help with some political campaigns and whatnot. So they are moving away from that, where we're not going to really be allowed to use that measurement, which was actually one of the first times where a test actually fit the purpose of what we were trying to do. And so now we're forcing kids back into SAT and ACT, and we're shooting them down before they even have a chance to fly. And so by having a pathway like this, we are able to meet their needs, empower them for their thing, recognize that not all kids do well on tests, not all kids are going to learn the same way or perform the same way, and using what we already do that we know is producing these amazing kids that are going on to be cancer researchers and lawyers, as well as amazing electricians and union workers and hairstylists that are at the top of their fields. Yeah, well, shout out there too. This can help them just break another barrier, and I wholeheartedly think this will be phenomenal for us. And the beautiful part of the way the state has this set up with the State Board of Ed, not only will this help our students, but once this is approved at the state level, any other school that has a Civil Air Patrol as a school unit would also be open to being able to use this. So I think this, APA, we like to be ahead of everybody else on things, and we like to kind of lead the way, and I think this will be great. So thank you for your work on this study, and yeah.
Now, will this be, you're working on it now, it will have to be approved. This will basically take effect for the kids next year then? Or is this a regime or in theory?
In theory.
Okay.
So we have to submit initial review by the 30th, and then they give us monthly feedback.
Mhm.
Okay.
Final decision by September.
Okay.
And this is just like one, this isn't like the end all be all, like kids can still meet the pathway number 3 with their college
Mhm.
classes or D26, or they can meet the benchmarks. This is just like
Yeah,
another
it sounds like
tool
they're
in the
already
toolbox.
doing a lot of this
Yes.
anyhow.
Mhm, exactly.
Except now we want all of them to
Yes.
participate, yeah.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna ask next,
Yeah.
was the time frame on the application process, you know, kind of from it, but I think you just answered that.
Yeah,
Kind of,
so
yeah.
I meet with Jill basically once a week of this month, and I'll meet again next week, and we're getting the application filled out, and then we just sit back and wait for the State Board of Ed to provide feedback.
Do you have a sense of how many students would be on this pathway based on, I mean, not hard numbers?
Well, that's
but
an application question.
So I would say as the senior sponsor, I'd probably say 50% of this year's cohort met pathway number 3 with the ASVAB test.
Mhm.
So if that ASVAB test does move away, we will look for more kids to meet pathway number 3 through this pathway.
Alright.
Yeah.
What's your process of tracking, just going forward? Say they've gone through all this progress and they went through all these pathways. How do we track it just to make sure that everything's going well? We're gonna continue down these paths, or maybe we need to adapt some things going forward for the next class or something from there.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have a software through Standards for Success. It's been sold, so I don't know who owns
Yeah,
it at
somebody
this
else,
point.
yeah.
But it's actually cleverly called Pathways. And so each student has a portfolio on there, and it shows, you know, they've met this thing, they've met this, they've met that. And so that gives us the data we need to evaluate how many kids are falling short in this category, how many kids are succeeding in this, how can we move these kids to that bucket, and encompass that. One of the most brilliant things that is happening for us is the dual credit opportunities. And our D26 partnership, because they have really linked up with Ivy Tech on almost all of those courses, that's helping some of those kids that would not find that traditional academic path necessarily, that are more career path than college path in that area. They're checking all the boxes already. So that pathway software really helps us with our data.
What age do you start sharing the pathway with the students? Is it their 9th grade year, 10th grade? Do you wait until their junior, senior year?
Oh no, it has to be 9th grade.
I mean,
We're
we
gonna
introduced
start
it
talking
in
8th
I
grade.
mean, we had parent meetings, cause that was what we
Correct,
felt,
right.
like just educating, it's like, you have 4 years, start now, don't wait, cause we even have some seniors unfortunately where they didn't start until their senior year, and that poses challenges and stress for the school and stress for them and their families. So we try to educate right away, like get involved, get your community service, start looking at your academics and what your career plans are.
Yeah, and one of the things, as you guys know, we're going through the strategic planning grant process, and we are finishing up some of those action plans. And one of those is a new portfolio that would start in 6th grade. And so not that we want, they could, not that we want our 6th graders saying, here, I'm picking my future, right? And there are some countries that do, you know, starting in that way, you start specializing at that early age. But getting them career focus, getting them exposed and thinking, you know, coming up in 8th grade, I'm gonna have to make a kind of a decision, right? You can transfer between pathways if you do it well. If you bomb your freshman year academically, it is gonna be much harder to say, right now I'm on this pathway, but I'm gonna go here, because you got a lot of makeup to do. And so starting those conversations early, especially with 6th grade, here's how we're building this portfolio, here's how we're doing this. It's very, very begin with the end in mind of us, very Covey, very leader in me, and we're gonna be making that just a part of their life. But also going down K through 5. And so that they are gonna be working on, you know, having portfolios and career exploration, but, you know, in an elementary fun way, just kind of imagine the possibilities.
Even today, like the aviation, like I was there watching the kids watch these rockets and watch the drone, like we're just inspiring there. It's like, come to middle school, we can get you in these things, and come to high school and you can get college credit for all of this, and that's awesome.
Yeah, did you already reference that? One of the best days of the year at APA is Aerospace Day at the elementary, where the big ones go down and take all the fun toys. Our neighbors really adore us because sometimes we shoot the rockets off and they don't always go straight up. It's fine. And so, you know, getting to see that excitement and those things, and so really kind of capitalizing on that. As far as the graduation pathways go, as a collective education movement, not entirely against it. You know, I think it's great for kids to start putting a plan together, right? Some of us are abnormal and new. You know, I'm 7 years old. This is what I'm gonna be. I was one of those obnoxious children that knew I was gonna be a high school English teacher, and that's what worked for me. But there were also classmates that, you know, no one had that conversation with them, and then they hit 18, they got the diploma, and then it was, now what? So I think this is very much aligned with what we try to do here anyways, but
Are you regularly meeting with the students individually, or is it, cause I know I've been to the group, but meeting them individually as well, is that something that you wait until the student, or is there a scheduled time throughout the year?
okay, that goes with the strategic plan.
Okay.
So one of the things that, and you know, if we have any teachers listening, you get to hear this tomorrow as part of our corporation meeting. We are doing the family approach, school family approach. So homeroom teacher is going to, that's their group. Part of the initiative is checking in on Mondays, going through, you know, are you on track? What have you been doing? Looking at our goals. What goals are we setting, and what did you do today? Like if you say, I want to be a neurosurgeon, right? What did you do this week to help you get there? And so having that accountability, but also having that person that is there checking on them, serving as a mentor, serving as a liaison and saying, here, let me help you get set up for tutoring with Captain Stadelmeyer, or hey, let's have a parent meeting. If you look at our school calendar for next year, you'll see in October we have 2 e-learning days back to back because we're gonna have family conferences. And one of the most challenging parts to do at a secondary level is have parent-teacher conferences, because you have 100, 120 kids, you get, 2 minutes? In, out, great. And so what we'll be using is the parents will be meeting with the homeroom teacher. They'll be able to kind of talk about their portfolios, they'll talk about, here are the academic challenges we are going through, here are the attendance, here's the behavior, here's how we can schedule you an appointment so that you could meet one-on-one with, you know, Captain South or something. And so really making that adult take ownership of their home room, but giving, you know, that liaison for families, getting that for the kid, and really make sure, you know, our community's coming around and taking care of that whole child. So that's our plan.
Is it
Separate from this pathway, but in conjunction with.
Is the college career readiness class still currently going on?
Yes.
With this going on? Okay,
Mhm.
good. So that's a good tie with this as well too.
Yes, and that, I mean, that class was a semester. We expanded it 2 years ago to a full year.
Good.
And that group, right, I actually believe it is on the 20th. I think it's next week. They're going to go see the Crane Union, where they get to go and play with the big
Daleville?
machinery. Yeah, in Daleville. But they also get to go on college visits on that. They get to have military interactions on that. And, you know, we mentioned the lunch and learns in this, and so really capitalizing on that as well. We are also looking at how can we incorporate some of that coursework or curriculum in the middle school setting. Looking at the CAP classes, especially, you know, as we've got Air Force ROTC in high school, but now we have CAP in high school. Is there a way to incorporate maybe some of that in there? Is it something where it's an English unit? We're not entirely sure. And so finding whatever we can do to really get our kids to see what their dreams really could be, right? And what you tell us what you want to be exposed to, we'll make it happen. I'll use senior Caitlin Calfee as an example. Yeah. She wants to be a pilot. I don't know what kind of job that is. But she wanted to be a pilot. And, you know, having aviation classes and getting her the hands-on, it was, how can we think outside the box? What can we do? We got our internship with Airport here in Anderson. She has learned quite a lot getting certifications, and we're also helping her get her pilot license, and she's taking flight lessons and going through all of that. And that was something because a kid said, hey, I want to do this, we said, all right, we'll figure it out. It's the APA way, right? And so that's just setting them up for whatever success and helping them identify it earlier.
Now, does this mean that we're still core 40?
Yes.
Yes, so, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
This is not a diploma.
No, this is not.
Okay.
This is not.
We
Yeah.
are core 40 plus. So our students, to graduate from APA, they have to exceed the core 40 requirements quite a bit.
Okay.
Because of the classwork that we do.
I think this is great. I know, having been on the board as long, I mean, that was always drilled in that we were college prep, core 40, et cetera. I think this, I like the wording post-secondary training, because, let's face it, well, there's been a lot of articles. I know, saw one in the Wall Street Journal the other day that a lot of people are starting to evaluate, do I really want to go to college for 4 years and spend this much money and go in debt? Because just because you have college degrees, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to find a good paying job that you can enjoy. So there's a lot of paths to success, trade schools, whatever. So I think this is something that I think is good. So we're still honoring our school's mission. We're not deviating from that. But at the same time, we're recognizing that there's many different paths to success. And some of us, I don't know, if we were going back over it again, might decide to learn a trade or something in lieu of all the college diplomas. So I applaud, I like what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
So-
and for us, how I've been explaining, because I've heard, well, we're not a college prep anymore, we're not doing this. All of our kids, if they want to go to college, they will be college ready. Our coursework is rigorous. We're not lowering our standards or softening what they have. They should be academically college ready, but they don't necessarily have to go to college.
Right.
And that's reality. When we were founded 15 years ago, and I'm the generation, like, you go to college. That was your way out, right? You got to go. It was an expectation. But then, I'm also a generation where, as a teacher, don't go get your master's because no one's going to want to hire you. They can't afford you. And
Yes.
you don't want me to be better educated as an educator. And so we had to examine, like, where are our kids being successful? We have graduates, and obviously we've not had that many graduating classes yet, that are making more than we do, that didn't go to college. They went in, through the unions or through electrician and all of that, and they're 6 figures already, and they're doing phenomenally well. All of the design of our charter being, a great person, having core values, having the work ethic, having all the soft skills, but also having that problem solving and all the academic knowledge they need. When they walk out the door, they pick whatever pathway they're going to succeed. No matter how you measure them.
A lot of to that point too, I wanted to interject, a lot of the skilled trades, the college prep curriculum feeds right into that. A lot of their skilled trades that require calculus, that
Right.
so you may think that, well, if you're doing that, you don't
Or
need to-
trigonometry, if you're going into machine tooling, I mean,
Right.
that's
Right.
all, that's where that kind of math is used.
Yeah, so it's definitely very relevant, even if you don't go directly to college.
It is, and the push for dual credits and having access to that. I think we have 4 right now that could possibly get an associate's degree when they graduate this year from APA. And so, and that is becoming more of a thing, not just here at APA, but within the educational realm. We have early and middle college programs where there was a young lady up in Gary at a charter school. She actually got her bachelor's degree from Purdue Northwest before she got her high school diploma, because of the way graduation happens. And she's a rarity, right? Most of the kids from that school are getting an associate's degree or almost to that point. But she took advantage of it. She's actually got a lot of Ivy Tech classes out of it and everything. And it's changing futures, and kids are walking out at 18 getting to break generational poverty through education, but also through having pathways. So,
I am seeing a lot of articles questioning calculus, how necessary that is, versus what they're recommending now is perhaps more of an emphasis on linear algebra, which I believe would be your matrix calculations, and big data statistics.
yes.
That's my
So I think I would tend to agree with that. I think calculus is somewhat an esoteric field. I mean,
Yes, we want quantitative reasoning
the bond
courses.
traders use it. If you have a fixed income portfolio, the duration measurement is a calculus formula, but that's all plugged into a handheld, so I don't know. But, yeah, I don't think too many of us were just really eager to tackle calculus. But,
Hey, he speaks your language.
I dodged as long as I could, but then I did get through it, but never use it.
So essentially what we need, we just need board approval to continue the application process, and then if that is received, I'll work with Joe more next week, and we'll get this application submitted before the end of the month.
Awesome. Will we get to see a final copy of this stuff? No? No. Just to make sure that others,
It's
some
good
sure
to
they'll ask me,
know.
yes.
Yes,
No,
yes,
you're
we will
good.
make sure that that is released
Okay.
to the board as we go through the application process. And then I'll provide updates as we get them from State Board in my CEO report, just so you can be on top of where we're at with that. State Board of Ed, they've got a lot on their plate right now, but some of this is the fun part for them because they get to think outside the box a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would move that we continue the application process with the local graduate pathways requirement as presented tonight.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Schottenmeier.
Thanks,
Have a
and
great
thanks for the
night.
discussion.
Yes, thank you for everything that you're doing. Truly
See you
appreciate it.
Saturday, I
Keep up the good
imagine.
work.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll be there.
Yes, I'll be at the
Okay,
ball.
very
I hope to
good.
see you at graduation here in a few short weeks too.
Yeah.
Yes, it's right around the corner.
That's
Yes.
right.
We've got APA Event Palooza happening.
Yeah, for sure.
You want to attend something? We got something for you, and probably five events on one night.
Awesome. Thank you again. All right.
Thanks, Steph.
All right. Let's see, any other further discussion tonight? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn? I think that's it for us this evening.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
All right, motion and second, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for attending this evening. The meeting has now been adjourned at 7:41 PM Eastern Standard Time.
We still have the